Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Barehands podcast. I hope y'all liked that introduction. That was Hands of a Working Man by Zane Williams. We feel like it's just about the perfect song for this podcast. Hopefully, y'all listened to the introduction. If y'all didn't, listen back. Just a quick reminder, this podcast is going to be just three good friends talking about a bunch of manly stuff that we want to share with y'all, and we want to learn more of along the way. My name's Daniel. I'm going to be one of your hosts of this show, along with Wade Davis over there. Say hi, Wade.
Hello, Daniel.
And then my buddy Darren on the producer chair.
What's up, everybody?
So, as this is the first podcast, we're going to introduce y'all to a lot of things as we go, so bear with us. As we go throughout we'll call it a season, we'll call it a podcast, whatever. We're just going to keep burning through these. I've got a lot of good ideas. But step one is every week we're going to drink a beer with y'all, or a whiskey, or a wine, or whatever we feel like. Wade got a cool beer for us tonight. What you got, man?
Lone Star. And since we're in Texas, I feel like the first podcast, we should drink a Lone Star.
I agree with
It's
you, man.
it's a Rio Jade.
I was going to say, it's not just a Lone Star. It's a
Yeah.
Rio Jade Lone Star.
It's the classic American lager.
I like it, man. It's a good beer. The first time I had it, I think we were putting a roof on your random metal barn that you built at your house out of, what was that, like cedar posts and $2 trusses?
Yeah, and you said I got ripped off on the trusses, too.
Yeah, you bought trusses for $2 and overpaid, but after the end of a hot day,
possible?
these beers were pretty darn good.
Well, so that's why I brought tonight, because you liked them, so I thought we could have one of these. And they're made in the great state of Texas.
Yeah, so if y'all are listening tonight, crack a Lone Star and drink one with us before we get going here.
It's delicious.
Heck yeah, man.
Good every time.
Yeah, it's pretty good. About the only thing manlier than drinking a cold one with
Wait,
your buddies,
Daniel,
though.
wait.
What?
You forgot at the end of our beer drinking podcast, we get to tell a joke.
Oh,
To kind of
gosh
start off the-
almighty.
Here we go.
And as
Wade's
y'all will
already got
know,
jokes.
because I'll talk about this, but
Yeah,
I like jokes. And
Yeah.
some of my favorite jokes are the
dad
ones
jokes,
where...
to be specific.
Yes, I love dad jokes.
Everyone's
and some
a
of my
comedian.
some of my favorite are the ones where y'all don't laugh. It's just crickets, and it's me. I'm the only one that's cracking up. So I got a joke. It's a short one. And It's
Yeah.
also informational.
Okay.
All
Let's
right.
hear it.
So I don't know, but did y'all know that the people in Dubai do not like the Flintstones?
No.
I was unaware
I
of that
also
cultural.
did not know the people
decision.
in Dubai did not like the Flintstones, Wade.
But in Abu Dhabi, they do.
Whoa. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bare Hands Podcast.
Those of you that have checked out.
Yeah.
Time to start over.
So, look, we're all sitting here hanging out. We're going to drink some beers tonight. We're going to share some cool stories, and we're going to hopefully teach y'all a few things about, I don't know, our first
Dad
guns,
jokes? Oh,
guns
first
you should
guns.
own. I don't know. Stay tuned. Wade?
Man, I'm super excited about this podcast.
Yeah.
One, I want to thank Daniel. He has definitely put in the legwork on this stuff. I think he's come up with like 150 possible
lot.
episodes.
He just keeps texting them to me. I had to quit. I had to share a notepad because I was getting too many texts every day.
And in my defense, I think I came up with like 10 of them.
I
Yeah,
had
you
two-
did.
I had
And
two or three.
they
on
were
there.
pretty solid.
But one idea that we all had, that we all agreed on would be a good idea, was to talk about, for our very first podcast, our first gun.
Yep.
And so let's just roll into it. Wade, why don't you tell the listeners about the first gun you ever owned? That's pretty darn manly.
It is manly to own a gun. I don't think you have to own a gun to be a man, but it definitely helps. So I don't know if I have the command of the English language to express what getting my first gun was like. You know, there was definitely some emotion involved in that. It was joy, excitement, things like that. So I think the best way for me to tell you this story is to start from the beginning. So I was born in Texas, in a little suburb of Dallas, which is like 230,000 people.
So not a suburb.
It's definitely a
It's
suburb
its
of
own
Dallas.
town.
Oh, okay.
Well, some people have negative connotations with Garland.
Oh,
I love it.
Don't
Yeah.
say it out loud.
Sixth generation, baby.
nice.
Generation Garland.
But, I grew up middle class. Like,
Yeah.
we weren't low middle class.
Right.
But we definitely didn't live on the golf course.
Right.
My dad was in construction. My mom works for a company that I say they teach common sense, but they go to these big it's a small family-owned company, but they go to these corporations and they teach like team building skills and leadership and how to work with each other. So, this day and age, that's a pretty popular thing. But both my parents had good jobs, but, we definitely weren't rich. We didn't have, I didn't get a brand new truck when I turned 16 or anything like that. I did get a pretty cool truck, but not a brand new one. I grew up in a family where, like, I guess my dad was a pretty good disciplinarian, and, I misbehaved every now and then, so I got spankings, but he was also a huge lecturer.
Yeah.
And as I became a teenager, I would often hope for a spanking, because that would take like seconds, as to where a lecture would
compared
take
to the
hours.
I'm disappointed in you.
The guilt trip lecture.
And so my first gun that we got was revolved around whitetail hunting, because that's what we did from the first Saturday in November to the first Saturday in January in North Texas.
A lot of Texans are whitetail hunting.
Right. And that's what we did. I mean, we dove hunted 3 or 4 times a year, but Dad's main focus was whitetail hunting, and that's what we liked. So when
what?
I'm laughing because
we're also drinking
Daniel
beer while having this.
He couldn't have chose a louder cup.
Oh yeah,
Being pretty
But
quiet.
both of us did have metal Yeti cups that.
my cup's not loud.
Yeah,
I like
no,
it.
the aluminum can's pretty quiet.
So when we started discussing, and just a little bit of background, like I do have a big family. I am 6th generation Garland, and so, but
You should mention that one more time.
Yeah,
6th generation Garland.
Okay, you can continue.
But so I have a lot of family that I'm very close to.
Yeah.
But
And they're all from Garland.
every one of them.
6 generations back at least.
We had a couple moved to Mesquite, but we looked down on them. So getting this first gun was probably the most impactful thing that happened to me up until that point in my life. I mean, besides the relationships with my family and friends and stuff like that, but getting this first gun was probably the most significant thing that happened to me in my life, especially since, I'm not Jewish, so we don't have a bar mitzvah.
Right.
And I'm not Latin, so we don't have a quinceañera
Right.
or anything
I think you have to be a girl to have a quinceañera.
I think the boys have a quinceañero.
It's 2021. You can have one whatever you want.
Whatever. Actually, I'm not sure about that. Somebody fact check me.
I'm going to say no on the quinceañera.
But that experience, obviously meant the world to me at that point. But we decided that I was going to get a 270 when I was 13 years old. And like I said, my dad was a big lecturer and he's a big thinker. And so I didn't get that gun until I was 15. But when I was 13, we moved to a deer lease in Mason County, which, if you're not familiar with Mason County, it's the edge of the hill country to the west. And when you go hunting there, you sit there and watch deer. If you see 15 deer a night, you had a pretty slow night. And so I knew when we moved to this lease, I was going to get my first deer.
Right.
And when I didn't have my first gun yet, but we had decided on 270, and we hunted with some cousins, and my mom's first cousin had 270. He said, "Why don't you borrow this? You've shot it before. You can do this." And so, the whole time, that whole year, I'm talking to my dad, and I'm like, I'm a trophy hunter. That's what I'm going to do. I'm only in it for the horns. And we get out there the first morning, and the first buck that steps out, I said, "That's the one I want." And Dad said, "Okay, we can shoot that one." Well, I shoot the deer. He drops in a pile. And if you're a full-grown man and you don't even have a big hand, you could have palmed the rack on this deer. Like it was a 7-point, but it was a very small rack. But
Had a little
Pre-antler
ground.
restrictions.
Had a little
this is
ground,
pre-antler restrictions.
little ground shrinkage
This
when you
was
got to it.
1993.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm 10 years older than y'all, so
Yeah.
y'all are like 1. But anyway, we get this deer down, and obviously I feel overwhelming, pride and joy and all that stuff. The only person that was more excited, obviously, was my dad. I don't remember field dressing that deer but I do remember how excited my dad was for that moment. And so that locked in
Right.
that was the kind of gun that I wanted. That was such a That was such an amazing experience, and I hope an experience that most people get to have, whether you're on the father side or the son side. But it was such an amazing experience that it locked in that kind of gun. That's what I wanted to get. But still, with the way that my dad is, we talked about it for a couple years. On my 15th birthday, they were having a gun show in Fort Worth at Will Rogers, and we went. And with the sole purpose, Dad said, I got 400 crisp $1 bill or crisp $100 bills. And he said, let's go get you a rifle. So that must have been, this was 95. And that must have been like the peak popularity of 270s, because we go in there and I mean, it's hundreds of tables of guns.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you want. You have a whole lot to choose from.
Yeah.
I found one, as soon as we walked in, we see a guy carrying a rifle over his shoulder, and it's got a little flag on it, and it says, Weatherby 270, $450. Dad looks at me, and I'm like, hey, what about this one? And he's like, let's just keep looking. We just got here. I don't remember how long we stayed there, but we got there when they opened, and after lunch, I'm thinking, we're just not going to find one.
Yeah.
I found a Savage 270. I don't know what y'all think about Savage, but when you put it on safety, this particular one, the bolt action still worked. We had decided on a bolt action as well. The bolt action still worked, and Dad was like, no, we're not having that. When the gun's on safety, it needs to be shut down. Mm-hmm. So I was disappointed about that, and he goes, let's see if we can find that guy that's carrying that Weatherby around. And I thought, man, there's no way that guy's still here. Like, that gun got sold quick. But it was nothing short of a Thanksgiving Day miracle. We find this guy in a sea of people.
Yeah.
My dad talks him down $50, and he hands me the rifle. I shoulder it like I see everyone else at gun shows do. Like, I know what I'm doing. I had no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah,
but
so good.
At 15, I'm like a year and a half away from being full grown, as tall as I am now. So the gun fit me. Like, there wasn't, there's not like adjustments or something on a wood stock gun. So, I do what I see everybody else do, and Dad looks at me, kind of gives me the, what do you think? And I nod. And so he tells the guys, we got $400. Yeah. What can you do? And the guy him-haws around, and we get it for $400. When he handed me that gun, and this is where I lack the words to explain what happened, but when he handed me that gun, I didn't quite understand it then, but I was given the opportunity and a tool to probably fulfill what men are put on this earth to do. I was given the opportunity to provide, and I was given the opportunity to protect. And that comes in all shapes and sizes as far as how you provide and how you protect. The other night, Daniel fed us dinner, and it was an elk that you killed. You provided that meat for us, and that was a manly and good thing you did, not just because it was delicious and it was actually something good for me that I ate that day, but you fulfilled your role in society that night. And you didn't stand up on the table and beat your chest, but I know you, and I know there was a sense of pride that you were able to do that for your buddies. And so when I got that gun, that was what I was receiving. And my dad didn't specifically tell me that, even though he was a lecturer and he liked to talk and he liked to make sure that I understood as a young man the implications of owning a firearm and the individual responsibility and the things that I was going to be able to do with that gun. There wasn't as many words spoken as there just was actions.
Right.
I was 15 years old. I had a firsthand account of what a man was supposed to be through my father and through both my grandfathers. And so when I received that tool, when I got that rifle, I knew that's what was expected of me. Not just with a rifle, but for the rest of my life, I was expected to protect and provide. And I feel it a great honor to be a man. And that's probably not spoken very much of today, but it was a situation that, man, I hope, whether it's with a rifle or with your grandpa's watch or however it works out for you, I hope most people get to experience their first gun whether there's a gun involved or not. And to this day, Daniel, if we get up from here, this table, and he's like, Wade, we're going to go hunting.
Right.
You don't even have to tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tell me what kind of gun I need to bring, because I'm just going to go grab my 270.
Right.
And I'm going to be able to kill whatever we go after.
Yep.
And, you know, like I said at the beginning of this, I don't know, I can't express what that time in my life meant and how that influenced me from this point forward. And, you know, like I said, we weren't rich,
Mm-hmm.
but I was still able to have that experience. And so I'm hopeful that everyone else has an experience like that.
No, man, I think it's cool the way you worded that. Like, I think guns have such a negative like viewpoint from just everyone in the world nowadays that we forget the simple aspects of like, you're just another tool to provide for your family. Like, I think that's an interesting way to put it, how you talked about my elk the other day or about your first deer. Like, yeah, there are weapons, but like at the end of the day, like, how much meat do I have in my freezer? Like, I could cook y'all meals forever just based off of one gun, you know, like the steaks that we had, the breakfast sausage we have sometime, the summer sausage that me and my dad make. Like, yeah, it's a gun, but that one moment that you spend with it and potentially the animal or the shooting range with someone, like, it can last forever. The stories that you tell, the memories that you have with your friends, your buddies, the trips you take, like, it's a cool deal.
And that's why I wanted to make sure that, you know, you can have this experience without the gun.
Right.
You know, you can.
Yeah.
I think why one of the reasons I was excited about doing this subject for the first podcast was because I feel like it embodies and encapsulates what we want to try to express in this, and that, you know, we have a purpose as a man. Mm-hmm. We have goals. We have things that we should take care of.
Right.
And when you get that opportunity, or when that gun is handed to you, you know, or it gives you confidence that you can fulfill what you're supposed to do in life. And ultimately that is to be a man.
Yeah. And so, like, my first gun, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure how I was going to share it with you or what I was going to talk about, but kind of putting myself in the position of a listener, sitting there listening to your story, it made me start thinking about my first gun, and I hope that's what everyone's doing. I'm sure Darren is too. It's like you're thinking about these stories, and like
my story's as good as Wade's story.
It's not.
Well,
Yours is good.
I made it up, so
it's all got you good.
I'm a tree hugger.
No, so same thing. Like, my mom and dad are like super cool. Like, I don't know, like big inspirations in my life. Like, my mom actually dropped out of high school like when she was like 16 years old and just went to work. And she didn't have a mom or a dad. She just went straight to work and started at the same company she's been with now for like 35 years. And throughout that time, obviously, when I was a kid, my parents didn't have a lot of money. My mom dropped out of high school, went to work for the same company. My dad graduated high school, day laborer at a construction company, and then both of them just started slowly climbing the ladder, like stayed at the same companies for 35 years. So for me, it's like my parents don't have like college educations. My mom doesn't have a high school diploma, but they've just worked their freaking tails off for 35 years and are now able to provide for each other and have very good lives just off of hard work. I mean, there were struggles like when we were kids. We all got on a deer lease together. Same exact situation as Wade here in North Texas. One of the main reasons that like we own guns is to hunt whitetail deer. And as a youth, one of the more popular guns is a 243 model. So my first rifle literally is the Whiskey Myers song. Mm-hmm. I don't know the name of it now.
My first rifle.
Yeah, I can sing it in my head, but I'll just give them credit because it's one of my favorite bands. Please don't hate me, Cody Cannon, for forgetting your song name right now. But yeah, so I remember I actually got a Savage 243, a black one. And it was awesome. Did the bolt
action work on safety?
I don't remember, man. I was so young. But just like you, man, I remember being out there at the deer lease in Blanket, Texas, a deer lease in Brown County. And we were sitting up there, and I finally got to hunt by myself. And I remember I went to what is that? Hunter's education.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go
Hunter
to
safety.
Hunter safety, and I did it at Bass Pro Shop. And my mom dropped me off and did it all by myself, and I was so proud. I passed it on the first try. Got my hunter's education card. I turned 13. I was able to hunt by myself. I had my 243, and I was ready to go. And back then, it was pre-cell phone. It was
Ballad of a Southern Man.
Ballad of a Southern Man. Thank you for the producer, DK, over there.
So
I'm sitting there in a deer stand by myself. I'm 13. I got my hunter's education card. I got my Savage 243, and I am pumped up. And a deer walks out. And I just, from 100 yards away, I thought it was a monster. Like, a huge buck walked out. And I got on, like I said, it was pre-cell phone. It was pre-anything. We had walkie-talkie radios. And I got on, I whispered in the microphone, "Hey, Dad, like, there's a huge buck over here." And I don't know why I remember this. I mean, it was what? How long ago was that? 17 years?
How old were you?
2017.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I'm
Like
30.
13?
It was like 12 years old, 18 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Long time. But I remember it like it was
2004,
yesterday. I remember
2003.
grabbing that little microphone and telling my dad, like, "Hey, there's a huge buck over here. Like, huge buck." And I remember my dad coming back, like, "Well, shoot it. Like, what are you doing?"
yeah.
So I shot it. I got my rifle out the window, pulled the trigger, and ran off in the trees. Luckily, Dad came over, didn't run very far. And I I don't remember the actual process of gutting it, but I still have those antlers. And man, it's just something cool about that rifle. I still have it in my gun safe in the other room. Like,
Could you palm it?
huh?
Could you palm the deer?
Oh, easily. It was a very much a basket rack. I remember now, like, I thought it was so huge, and then I
You
saw
get
it
up
in
on it.
person. I'm like, meh.
Unless you think you're going to be in trouble for it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe don't post
Yeah.
this on the hunting forums. You know what I'm saying? But
Absolutely.
this was pre-antler restrictions,
Yeah.
and I was proud, man. And honestly, I'm going to get on a little rant just for 2 seconds, and it just made me think of that.
No, go after it.
I liked those times better. Like pre-internet, pre-cell phone, when you just went out and you were hunting and you shot a deer, and it didn't matter how big it was. It didn't matter how many points it had or what it scored. Like, if that deer makes you feel good, like if you like are proud of that deer, like, who cares what people think? Like, nowadays, it's what it scored. How many points did it have?
Well, I think that's an age thing too. Like as you get older, it becomes
Right.
more important to be more responsible.
Yeah, and
You
it is
know.
also a lot of internet based, like the hunting forums and stuff. Everybody's
Yeah.
real.
I'm not saying
proud.
there's not
Yeah.
a influence from other
But
directions.
that little basket rack, man, I was so proud of it, and it was so cool. And like, I don't know. I mean, for my mom and dad, it couldn't have been much. It was a Savage 243. They got at a pawn shop used, but they actually went out and spent like no money they had on it, and bought it for me as a Christmas present, and I still own it. I'm not ever gonna get rid of that thing. Like, it's just cool that they were willing to do that for me. And just like Wade, like to this day, I still own it. I still own other guns. And to me, a gun is not just like a weapon. It's not just an object. Like, it's something that is going to be passed down to me. If I ever have kids, it'll be passed down to them. Like, it means something to me. And I don't know. They're sentimental objects. And I'm sure Darren's got a good story he wants to share with y'all about his first gun. And hopefully y'all listening right now thinking of the same thing I am.
Yeah. So mine's a little bit different. We deer hunted a lot as well, but there was 4 of us growing up. I got a triplet little brother, so
You were more in North Texas though, right? You weren't
Yeah,
like
no.
we were in South Texas.
no, I grew up all in North Texas, starting Sanger, Pilot Point, all the way around,
Right.
everywhere. But we had a lease out, or a family farm out in Montague County, so we always hunted up there. But if Dad wanted to go hunting, most of the time he had to take all 4 of us. So he built this huge 6x6 blind and
Nice.
put a bench on it and like threw us all in there and told us to be
Just
quiet
so the
and sit
listeners
down.
can picture this, there's a dad, an older son, and 3 other kids that are triplets.
Yeah.
There's 5
They're
dudes.
2 years younger than me,
and
so,
they're
like,
all
we're
very
not that,
close in age.
Yeah, we're not that far apart, and like
So
we're,
5 guys in a 6-foot space.
and I like almost every time Dad went hunting, we all went, and I know
Yeah.
like he loved it, but he hated it at the same time. Like looking back now, he's like, "Oh yeah, it was the greatest thing ever," but in the moment, I could always see the frustration of like,
Yeah. Why did I have so many kids?
yeah, what am I doing? And both my parents were teachers, so like we also had no money.
Yeah.
And so like hunting was not just I don't know, it wasn't just a hobby. It was a way to provide.
It's a vacation too.
It was a vacation for my mom. Yeah.
You're not actually. He's not kidding. Like
It was a vacation for us.
Yeah, it still is vacation for us a lot of times. You know, it was a way to get out of the house, and like, how else are you going to keep 4 kids occupied? Right. You know, busy doing something that like.
Stick them in a box and tell them to be quiet.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and let us walk around. He'd take us out of the blind around noon, and let us walk around for a couple hours, and then stick us back in the box again.
A couple times.
Tell us to be quiet. Oh God, I can't imagine like having all 4 of us wrangle us to go to the bathroom, and that's terrible. But as much as we deer hunted, Dad was really into bird hunting, and my grandpa was really into bird hunting, and all my uncles and. Dove hunting in North Texas has always been a big deal, and kind of like, I don't know, always seemed to me to be like the rite of passage thing into hunting. It's like you get into dove hunting, then you work your way into the rest of it. So growing up, my grandfather had a 410 that sat in this glass gun cabinet in his living room, like as soon as you walked in their house. And we looked at it like as little kids. We walk in and he had 4 or 5, like single shot 12 gauge, single shot 410, and a couple of old, like I'm talking old school pump shotguns and stuff. He had another gun cabinet in his room where he kept all the good stuff. He was also a gunsmith, so he fixed a lot of guns and traded a lot of guns, and I mean he always had stuff around. So we like were into guns very early, but we weren't allowed to mess with them hardly at all. So Dad's rule when we got to be, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, we started bugging him about, like, when do we get to shoot? When do we get to go hunt? All this stuff. Well, my dad and my grandpa worked out a deal. They said, okay, well, this is what he did for my dad, and this is what we're going to do for you guys. You can take the 410, and it was what's that called?
Hammer
action 410.
Like a breakover, single shot?
It was a breakover, single shot, hammer action 410. Sorry, I couldn't think you, Wade.
Was it a single action? Is that what, I mean, is that
No,
the same
it's
as
a
a
single
pistol?
Like it breaks
Single shot,
over, you
breaks
put
over, you
one
put
shell
one
in it,
shell.
you get 1 shot. It's pretty
Right, but I
good
mean, you have to pull the hammer back, then pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You can't pull the trigger.
There's no
and it pulls
safety.
the hammer back.
Yeah, there's no safety. There's no cocking it. Like,
right.
You put it
The
in.
safety is the hammer.
Exactly.
Right.
So Dad's deal was, you guys can hunt with this 410. You can go dove hunt with us when you can safely pull the hammer back by yourself. I'm like, okay. So from 6 to probably 8 years old, every
you did was dumb wrestle?
Oh, every time we went over there, that's all we did the whole time. It's like, Papa, can we get your gun out? Trying to pull it back, and we couldn't do it. Finally, about 8 years old, I could do it. And my dad goes, okay, that's great, but now you got to be able to let it forward without hitting. I was like, what? That's not part of the deal.
Really?
And so we had the rules. Yeah, so we had to pull it back and then let it forward safely, so you could unload the gun without it discharging. And finally, but like 9 years old, I got that. So this was the first time I got to go hunting with Dad by myself, just me and him, because he wanted me to shoot the gun and didn't want my brothers there as a distraction. And somebody get hurt, or we were pretty rowdy kids. So
and your mom probably was like, no, they're not going.
Yeah, exactly. And it probably took me 4 or 5 times going out and hunting before I finally shot my first blackbird, and then another 2 or 3 times before I shot a dove. And the first dove I shot, it was the coolest thing in the world, shooting a dove with a 410, which now looking back, like at that point in time, it didn't even matter. Like I didn't care what the spread was, didn't care how big my spread was or the ammo I was shooting. And looking back now, I'm like, golly, what a jerk move to make us shoot a 410. That's it's almost impossible. And he made me clean the first dove, and I literally threw up cleaning it because it was so disgusting. But it wasn't that it was disgusting. It was the way that he described it to do it, which is put your thumb in its butt and grab it. And as a 9-year-old kid, I just thought, oh, that's terrible. Anyway, so that was wasn't really my gun, but my first gun that I got to hunt with and shoot with. And then my brothers went through the same thing. And then our grandpa bought us all 12 gauge Remington 870 Express 12 gauge when we turned 14 or 15. So that was our first gun I owned, but we started off with the 410, as we all call it, our first gun. So yeah.
Cool. So your grandpa was a a gunsmith.
Yep.
And he liked Remingtons.
He didn't like Remingtons, but he liked working on them.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's
Got
the
paid
first.
for it,
That's
yeah.
the first gun that he bought y'all.
Yeah, well, for the shotgun, yeah, he didn't. He liked Remington, and I
Yeah.
think it was more of a price tag thing.
Sure.
You get to buy four boys guns.
That's a good point.
You know, Remington 870 Express. They were at that point in time $250 or so.
So
a little more expensive now, but
So Daniel said that we're all, real good friends, but me and Daniel are good friends, but me and you only met
yeah, well,
it's at the beginning
About a
when we
month
started
ago,
when we
yeah.
started talking about this
Yeah.
podcast.
yeah.
So is your grandfather still alive?
No, he passed away when I was 16.
Did
17.
anybody in the family take up the gunsmithing thing?
My brother sort of dabbles in it.
Really?
Yeah, he's not like super into it, but it's like compared to the rest of us, he's built out more guns and fixed more guns, and I mean, I would say we all kind of have a knack for messing with them, but he's really taken on the.
I know we're talking about our first guns, but I'm fascinated
Yeah.
by that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
My dad actually has in my dad's shop in his little man cave area. He has a little metal sign my grandpa made that said T. Kincaid's Gun Services, and it's got prices for cleaning and repair and all that stuff on it. That, yeah,
I mean, it's
always
all
think
stuff
really
that's
cool.
stuck with us, you know?
Oh, yeah.
All of our grandparents passed it
sentimental,
down
man.
to our dads or passed it down to us. Like, they all have, like, super sentimental value, especially your first gun. I've got other guns that have, like, sentimental value, but, I mean, we can talk about those another time, but it's just cool, you know? They're not just weapons. They're not just tools. Like, they mean more to you than anything ever will. So, I don't know.
I mean, you could buy my gun right now for $500, but not mine.
Right.
You could get the
exactly.
same one, but you couldn't buy mine.
Oh yeah.
So
I'd never-
let's
never sell
transition
one.
from sentimental guns, guys. Like one of the main reasons we wanted to start this podcast was to teach our listeners stuff. So let's teach them just a little bit of something. We want to teach people, like, if you were to decide on three guns in your arsenal that you had to have in your closet, what would they be?
Now, we agreed that these three guns are important,
Right.
but our listeners are going to be like, wait a minute.
Right.
These three guns, none of y'all got these for your first gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I have
And-
I have already argued with somebody.
And you
else,
may
too, about
like
this- about
disagree
this
with
list,
some
so.
of them, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, they're just stuff that we've talked about that we've agreed are the best of the options. But at the end of the day, we talked about it. And do your own research. Like, we're gonna suggest three guns that every man should own, but look it up on the internet. Look it up on YouTube. Talk to people you trust. Your grandpas.
Right.
Your
Find somebody
dads.
you have a relationship with that can
and
help
they'll
you.
tell you stuff like that you want to know. So,
Well, and his grandpa was a blacksmith.
right.
And what did he get him?
Exactly.
He got him a
Gunsmith.
12 gauge.
Right.
Oh, sorry, blacksmith.
Yeah.
And that's another cool
I
thing.
mean, my
Like,
grandpa was awesome, but he was not.
He wasn't born in
wasn't so
1860.
he wasn't so hardcore.
We should have an entire podcast
He was a mayor.
episode
He was a
based on
mayor
his
and a
grandpa.
mailman, but not a blacksmith.
okay, so he was a gunsmith, but my point was he was a gunsmith, so he knew he forgot more about guns than what we know.
Oh, yeah.
And what was the first gun he bought them?
Right.
A 12 gauge,
Shotgun.
which is
Yeah.
So, speaking of, the first gun every man should own, drum roll,
the best segue ever.
12 gauge shotgun.
That was an awesome segue.
It was pretty good. We're
Yeah.
getting good at this. Episode 1, segues mastered. What's next?
I love it.
No, so a 12 gauge shotgun. Look, I mean, if you're going to own a shotgun, get a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
It's just about the most versatile shotgun there is. It can do just about anything from what? Home defense to hunting to...
I guarantee you I've killed more things with my shotgun, like with
Right.
that Remington 870 Express that I have, than I've killed with any other gun ever. Squirrels.
Do you have a
ducks.
12 gauge, Wade?
Yes, and I've cleared the house in my underwear several times.
Oh yeah, I've done that
I
too.
mean, that's the point of a 12 gauge. Like, there's hundreds of different brands, like Remington, Mossberg, Pump 500s. I mean, whatever it is. Like,
and there's so much ammo.
I
out
mean,
there.
you can get a Benelli, like top of the line. At the end of the day, like a 12 gauge shotgun.
Have you ever seen the Fire Dragon shotgun shells?
No, but I'm interested.
Okay, they're 12 gauge shells. You put in whatever 12 gauge you want to,
Yeah.
and it shoots out a flaming ball of fire.
All right, I'm gonna look that up after this podcast.
You
'cause
should.
That sounds.
Don't use it
Pretty
for home
darn
defense.
cool.
You'll catch your house on fire.
Most balls of fire are flaming.
Well,
Kind
This is over.
Described it.
So
well, it's overkill.
much
It deserves
cheaper
an
than
over
that.
description.
12 gauge shotgun. It's cheap. You can get them for down to like $300, right? I mean,
Oh,
they're
you can
not expensive.
use
Yes,
them.
you can spend a lot of money, but you can get a pump action 12 gauge.
Support
for
your local pawn
very
shop.
cheap. Yes,
Yep.
go to your pawn shop, get a good one. Ammo pre-pandemic is very easy to find.
It still is probably the easiest ammo
I mean,
to find.
you're not kidding.
Right
Like,
now.
if you were gonna go to the store today, I mean, it's 2021 April. Like, pandemic is full swing,
Yeah.
and it's hard to find ammo for just about anything. But 12 gauge is still around, and there are another cool thing about 12 gauges is that there's just such a variety in it. I mean, you can get bird shot, you can get slugs, you can get turkey shot, home defense stuff. So, I mean, it's a good versatile round. And what's the most intimidating sound in the world, Wade?
Do it. Do the sound.
Do it.
When you point to me and tell me to talk on the podcast.
That's the second most intimidating sound. The most intimidating sound?
12 gauge.
You don't have to even speak any particular language. You hear that?
It's universal.
You know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, if someone breaks into your house, like, you don't have to worry about shooting them. You rack around,
Yeah.
they're going to know what's on the other side of that door.
If they're still coming to rob you after they hear that sound, they're clinically
They
insane.
also have a gun.
Yeah, and just
So
speaking
just
of home
insane.
Be ready.
defense, like, speaking of home defense, like, yeah, the sound is very universal, but also it has the bullets themselves, the BBs have a wide spread, and they're hopefully, and
So you
most
don't have
of the
to
time,
be very accurate.
right, you just have to shoot, and like, they're not going to penetrate a lot of walls. So it's, as far as home defense goes, it's got an intimidating sound. It's got a wide spread, and it's not going to hurt anybody in the next room. So, like,
and I'd say it's the easiest one to learn how to shoot,
yes,
right? Like for
Right.
that situation, right?
right,
Not that an AR or 9mm or whatever, a pistol is going to be
yeah,
as effective or more effective, but for someone who's never had a gun that needs a gun,
right.
like it's the easiest thing to pick up and learn how to.
And just
defend
one
yourself and
random thing I wanted to bring up about a 12 gauge shotgun is just the camaraderie of owning a shotgun. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in the situation of not owning a shotgun, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm picturing, like, just picture this. Like, you and your buddies are hanging out, like, in the middle of the summer, like, dove season's rolling around, cracking some cold ones, some Lone Stars to be exact, and you're
Responsibly.
Responsibly.
Responsible.
like, not intoxicated.
Not before you shoot.
Well, you can shoot clay pigeons. Like, it's just a little orange object that you can throw up and make a game out of it. Like, it builds camaraderie. And, like, that building camaraderie, shooting clay pigeon leads to hunting. I mean, how many things can you think of to hunt with 12 gauge, Wade?
You can pretty much hunt whatever you want.
Right.
I mean, from squirrel to whitetail.
I mean,
Now
Yeah.
the type of shell you put in is going to be different, but
yeah.
you can use that gun for that wide range.
I mean,
of
our
things.
producer Darren's a big duck hunter, and he uses a 12 gauge. I'm a big deer hunter, and I don't use a 12 gauge, but I easily could by switching to slugs, right? And
Yeah.
you like going dove hunting with your family. You mentioned it earlier. That's just, I mean, it's such a versatile round. I mean, home defense, hunting, camaraderie with your buddies. Like, if you're going to own a shotgun, own a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie is really, I wouldn't have thought of that until you brought it up, but it really was. I mean, that was my favorite part about dove hunting.
Right.
I mean, I loved wrapping those little suckers in bacon and grilling them up, but my favorite part of dove hunting was you can talk. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I like to
Yeah.
talk to people, and
Hence the podcast.
Yeah.
yes, deer hunting, you're not going to be real successful if you're sitting around talking a
Yeah.
lot. So,
Right.
but dove hunting, you can talk to your buddy while you're sitting
Duck
there.
hunting's the same way.
Yeah.
That's why I love doing that. It's just,
Sure.
You get to come out with your buddies and hang out.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're gonna own a shotgun or one of the 3 guns we're gonna mention, get a 12 gauge. I mean, you're gonna need
The
it
most
for
versatile. For
right.
Sure.
It's of all the guns we're gonna mention, it's the most versatile. It's the cheapest to buy, cheapest to shoot. I mean, cheapest to easiest to
easiest to learn
maintain,
how.
easiest to learn.
Yeah. If you ever wanted to really like reload ammo,
Right.
reloading shotgun ammo, pretty simple process.
Right. So as much as I love 12 gauges, if I was going to introduce you to your first ever gun, or more specifically a kid's first gun, the gun that I want you to learn on is a 22 long rifle.
Yeah.
Which is what I actually got Darren's son for his first birthday.
First birthday. So I don't even have a 22. I have a 17, which
Yeah.
is pretty much the same thing, but
Yeah.
I don't have the 22. My son at 1 year old owns a 22 before I
Right.
do, which I thought was pretty awesome.
I gotta start inviting Daniel to my birthday.
Oh, dude, yeah. Invite him to your kids'
I
birthdays.
love people's kids, man. Like, I spoil them. And,
Yeah.
like, I honestly think the second of the 3 guns that every person should own is a 22. Like,
What'd your wife say when you unwrap
she
a
was
22?
pretty pumped.
Oh,
She
she was?
was?
Yeah, she's super
Sweet.
excited.
She's cool.
Dude, yeah, no, she's
This
awesome
is the
about
same
it.
chick that, like, helped us gut a deer in the garage. So
Oh,
she's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, she helped us hang a
Awesome.
deer up and
Awesome.
clean a deer up. Yeah.
Yeah, so a 22. It's the reason I got it for Mac is there's no recoil. Like
Yeah.
the kid can shoot it and he won't get scared of the gun. Like he can look through the scope, he can learn the mechanics of the gun and he won't be scared of it. Like the sound is nothing, the recoil is nothing. So it's just a good gun to learn on. And then the
Yeah.
other cool
Learn
thing
to hunt and learn to
yeah,
do
I mean,
everything
just
with it.
very basics. And the specific gun that I got Mac is a single shot 22.
Yep.
So he can't go crazy with it. I mean, he
Yeah.
has to individually load one 22 round at a time. So like, it's a when he like I mean we'll obviously have to just figure it out as he develops, right? You know, I don't know. I don't know the exact age.
We talked about that. Me and my wife did. We were like, "What?
I don't
At
think
what
you can
age
put
do
it.
you
Yeah.
start letting them?" And there's not really. It's more of a maturity thing versus the age thing. You
Right.
just let them get comfortable with the process and.
I don't.
know
I
what
mean,
they are.
do you
Yeah.
have? I mean, Wade, do you agree?
Yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah.
think there's a
So,
number.
Your
It's
girls
just-
just
No.
older.
My girls are older, and they've all shot guns, and we've been dove hunting and deer hunting and stuff like that. None of them have shot a deer, but it's not really their fault. It's mine because I haven't put them in great
right.
situations to shoot deer as far as the probability of seeing one where we
Sure.
hunt. But man, just on this is a little bit of a detour off the
Right.
22, but before he's old enough to shoot a 22, man, you can buy those little bow and arrows,
Right.
and you teach them the same gun safety
Yeah.
with a
you're
with
right.
a bow and arrow and stuff like
Looking
that.
down range, not shooting
Right.
your buddy's head.
Keeping
That's a
it
good
pointed
point.
the same
That's a good
way,
point.
you know, don't put your finger on the trigger till you're ready to shoot, things like that. And that's what I do with my girls. I mean,
I
they're
mean, we do it with Nerf guns, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
we have
anything.
Nerf guns, and I'm like, he knows what a magazine is to put in the Nerf gun. He
Right.
knows to keep his finger off the trigger unless he's ready to shoot. And you know,
my
so-
twins actually can shoot a bow and arrow better than I can,
Oh,
Really?
which isn't saying much, but they're pretty
awesome.
dang good at it.
Yeah, so at 22, man, I don't know, it's a good gun for a kid. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a great first gun. And as an adult, I still get excited for 22s. I just
yeah.
got a CZ 457, which is basically a dumb sniper rifle 22 that
Yeah.
I'm going to deck out and take it to the gun range. I'm going to take it squirrel hunting. Like, it's a cool varmint rifle, you know?
Sure.
And it's such a cheap rifle that, like, us three or anybody can go to the gun range and spend all day out there.
And the ammo's inexpensive too.
Right. It's just cheap ammo. It's easy to get. And you can just have fun. So, yeah, it's a cool round. I mean, yes, there are arguments for the 17. There's arguments for anything.
Right.
But the reason I picked the 22 and the 12 gauge is just because they're just all American rounds, right?
Yep.
And the 22 is just easy to get, easy to shoot, and it's just so user friendly. So, yeah,
They're also my favorite gun to put a silencer on.
it's true. I
'Cause
mean,
you can-
there's nothing better.
You can get subsonic rounds
What are you
with a
doing later
silencer for a
tonight, Dan?
22, and the only thing you hear is
Yeah,
It's just-
squirrels won't ever know you're coming.
no, man. You can take them out.
Pesky squirrel.
So you're looking at your gun safe now, and you've got your 12 gauge in it finally. And then all of a sudden, Wade's like, "Man, I got my 12 gauge. I should go get a 22." So he gets his 22, and he's like, "Daniel, what else should I get? I need something else." And we talked a lot about this last one, and we had some disagreements. We had some agreements about it, but at the end of the day, the rifle that I chose for an all-around rifle is you need a bolt action rifle. You need something that can go hunting. Something you can shoot long range, something you can shoot close range, and there's 100,000 calibers out there. I mean, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRCs, there's 270s, there's 243s, there's 308s, there's 300 Win Mags. How do you pick
30,
one?
30s.
There's
yeah.
30-30s. Like, I don't know. I mean, you can literally pick any rifle and plug it in a situation. Like, if I'm hunting in the woods, I mean, close range, why not grab a 30-30? If I'm shooting real long
Texas.
range at antelope, why not shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor? If I'm shooting elk at 300 yards, better get my 300 Win Mag.
Yep.
But for the sake of this agreement, for this conversation, we just wanted to pick C3. So the rifle we chose was the 30-06.
Because it can do all those things you just mentioned.
Right. I mean, it may not be the best at
It
any
might not
of
be
them.
the elite one at each individual thing,
Right.
but
It can do all of them.
Right.
It's been around for over 100 years, and it's still going strong. I mean, Wade, do you know anybody that shoots a 30-06?
my father.
Right. And my
That's
dad
the only
does
rifle he ever used.
too. My dad's the same way.
I personally have been shooting a 30-06 for the last 7 years.
Right.
So
So we just mentioned how boss Darren's wife is, and that's
Yeah.
the gun that she owns is a 30-06, right?
I've been using her gun. It's not actually. Thank you, Daniel, for bringing that up. It's not actually my gun.
We won't mention
so
that in a
the,
manly
I
bought
podcast.
the
that you use
first
your
manly
wife's gun.
podcast we
Yeah, we stole our wife's guns.
we've called.
That's fine.
But look,
out
a
on
30
using
out
that.
That's how awesome my wife
yeah,
is. What
it's
I- what
not
I
going to
gonna
be
say.
the most efficient cartridge, ballistic wise. It's not going to be the fastest or the most drop or all that crap. But if you just X all that off the board and you're like, man, I just need a gun that I don't make a lot of money and I can't buy 18 rifles, but I want to go on an elk hunt later this year in Wyoming. What should I take with me?
Take a
30-06.
But I also go coyote hunting with my buddies.
But I also go coyote hunting in East Texas with
Right.
my buddies. I mean,
Hog
the 30
hunting.
6 do
Hog
the
hunting
same
everywhere
thing.
else. Yep.
What about if we're going to South Texas to where you grew up, Wade? 30-06. Grew up hunting. I know.
Oh,
Where did
okay.
you go? Wait, the listeners might have forgot. How many
think they forgot.
generations are you
I
from?
think it's you're
from
sixth generation
Garland?
Richardson.
Yeah. Wait, what was it?
Is that right?
How dare you? He's offended.
He's looking at me with a death stare. Right
I've
now.
left the podcast.
He's left the podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Richardson.
I mean, it's the same thing, right?
But look, guys.
No.
Oh, my bad.
Look, guys. A
There's a
30-06.
4-lane road.
It's
in
over
between
100
those two
years old.
towns.
It's still going strong. It can be loaded up to 180 grains and kill those big animals. It can be loaded down, kill those small animals. And it's not a Magnum rifle, which, yeah, it's going to have a decent amount of recoil, but it's going to be right at that range where a normal person can handle the recoil. So you're going to have fun shooting it. And at the end of the day, when you're behind a rifle, the most important thing is that you're comfortable with it. Shooting a 30-06, you're going to be comfortable with it because you're going to be able to shoot multiple rounds at the range and get good at it without blowing your shoulder off, blowing your ears off. It's just comfortable.
And I think that I don't know if you're ready to summarize that, but
Yeah.
I think it does go back to kind of what we talked about earlier.
Right.
Take what we say and research it, but
Right.
but develop a relationship with a human being
Right.
that is going to lead you in the direction that was best for you. Because obviously we don't know you personally, and so what fits you perfectly, these are just 3 general guns that
Yeah.
we feel strongly about, that everyone ought to be able to handle and everyone ought to be able to be successful
I mean,
with.
they're guns that you can literally just about cover the spectrum with.
Right.
You can shoot a 12 gauge in home defense.
Mm-hmm.
You can shoot birds with it. You can go duck hunting. You can go dove hunting. You can go quail hunting.
You can teach yourself and your kids with a 22.
Right. You can teach anybody. I
Right.
mean, how to shoot a gun. You can even still shoot small game with it. And
Right.
then you're like, man, I feel comfortable with this. My kid feels comfortable with this. And then you can transition to a 30-06 where
Right.
it can be bought on any shelf at any store all over the U.S. I mean, it's just.
And then you got 3 guns. If somebody says, "Hey, let's go hunting,"
And
you're
then
ready.
Darren mentioned, and we're going to bring it up just for extra credit. If you want a gun for concealed carry, which is important, a 9mm, just a whatever brand, whatever it is, just
Just not High Point. Don't get a High Point.
I go back to the bow and arrow for concealed carry.
yeah,
Hard to conceal
I
that.
support this.
No. Backpack.
Yeah,
Stick
so
it in a backpack.
that's just extra
Folds down.
credit. If you're looking for a concealed
Yeah.
carry weapon, just something to protect yourself on the road, in your truck, and in public, just a 9mm. Just it's easy to cheap
handgun
around.
calibers out there too, but 9mm, like,
It's not going to put the hole in it a 45 will put in you,
but you get 15 of them.
but you get a lot of them, and
Most
it's
of the
not
time.
going to have the recoil and the kick,
Yeah.
so your accuracy is going to be way better.
Yeah.
So look, like Wade said, and I'm sure Darren agrees, we're not experts, and
No.
we're open to suggestions and opinions, and like we look forward to receiving your feedback. But at the end of the
We
day,
read all fan mail.
all fan mail.
So
Oh,
far.
So far, we've read every bit of
Buy
fan
yourself
mail
a
we've
12
gotten.
gauge. Buy yourself a 22 and buy yourself a 30-06.
Do it.
So,
Do it to it,
speaking
Lars.
of 30-06s, we mentioned something earlier about everyone's dad basically owning a 30-06.
My
It's
dad.
a night's dinner that I cooked for y'all before this podcast. When we were talking about everything and y'all had that delicious elk backstrap, was prepared by a man that killed a deer with 30-06, and that's my dad. Darren was gracious enough to show up early and prepare it using the reverse sear method. And I hope it turns out good. We want to share it with you. Wait.
Hold on, Daniel.
Oh no.
This is a specific segment of our podcast.
What segment is that?
The producer's corner.
The producer's
The
corner.
producer's corner.
Every week, we're going to, at the end of the podcast, guys, it's over. You made it. You listened to the whole thing. Congratulations if you're still here.
We're almost done talking.
We're
out
almost
loud.
done talking. But before you go, one of the most manliest things that we could think of was cooking. Right, Wade?
I prefer macaroni and cheese, but I don't think that's what you're talking about today.
But Wade...
We're gonna save the macaroni and cheese recipe for later. I already told you.
Yeah, but Darren here is the owner of Mac Daddy's Barbecue and a delicious cook. And we want to just spend a few minutes every week teaching y'all a new episode, whether it be on the grill, on the smoker, on the cast iron, or whatever other manly way he can think of to cook you a delicious meal. So, Darren, tell him about that reverse seared backstrap you cooked for us tonight.
All right. So, if you're gonna reverse sear, you can use the sous vide method.
Yeah.
You can.
Back up.
Yes.
Who's sous vide?
Is that a new character we're going to have?
A sous vide.
Hey, guys, I'm
sous vide. It's a French word. I don't know what it means, and I don't know how to translate it from English.
Frenchie's manly?
I'm sous vide. I want to be
There's got to be some of them that are right.
Sure. They all smoke. They got to be pretty tough, right?
It's tougher than me. So,
oui.
So what is
so
like
sous vide-
seriously?
sous
I'm
vide is-
asking.
It's basically you boil it in a bag, right?
You vacuum
So
seal it right, and then you
You
boil it.
you vacuum
Yeah.
seal it,
I
and these
love
food
boiled meats.
But it's
No,
not.
it's
It's
not
not.
like
It's
that.
not boiled meat though, right? Like, it is. The process is boiled meat, but it is not boiled meat.
It's like Spam.
Nope.
Okay.
Not like that at all. Any like super fancy steakhouse you go to,
Yeah.
most of them sous vide whatever meat they're preparing.
Because
right?
you just like vacuum seal the meat, and then
Put
you
it in
boil
a-
it to like 15 degrees below, like what's
Yeah.
medium rare, like
Yeah,
one.
they make little machines that you don't even have to mess with. You just like put a temperature on it, like whatever
Right.
meat you want to be your temperature, you put it on. For a steak, let's say 120, right?
Yeah.
And you hit it 120, and you put however many hours you're going to be away. Not
Right.
how many hours you need to cook, how many hours you're not going to mess with it.
It's a pretty cool little tool just for the
Yeah.
basics.
There are things that are good to cook in sous vide. This is not
But
one.
that's not how you cook them. So tell us about
Yeah.
the reverse here.
So anyway, start your smoker up and get some good charcoal, not briquettes. Get some lump charcoal that's got a good like hickory or some good wood base to it. Try to avoid mesquite if you can. A little too
That's
much.
what
for
I
my
say.
taste.
Everybody from Garland says that. Avoid
Avoid
mesquite.
Gosh almighty. Where are you from again? Tell the listeners one last time.
Please tell us where you're from. Everybody can look up Wade in Garland. He's got a statue of
Let's
himself
just
there
start
on
calling
Main
him
Street.
King Garland for the rest of this deal.
I like that.
Golly.
So we got my
Anyway.
smoker fired
Anyway,
up.
get your smoker fired up. Get
Awesome
you some good
wood,
coals.
lump
Yeah.
charcoal
Yeah.
rolling.
Get it up to about 200, 225.
Yeah.
Put a little olive oil on it. Season it, salt, pepper. Stick it on there. Put your internal thermometer on it and get it up to, get your internal temp about 5 degrees less than what you want it to cook to.
Yeah.
So for me, I prefer even deer meat, rare to medium rare,
Yeah.
which you're looking at 120 to 125. So I would take reverse sear. I would take it up to, smoke it up to about 115.
That's pretty good.
While that's in the last, 10 degrees of happening, get you a cast iron skillet, some butter or some beef fat or bear fat if you're cool enough to have any bear fat around, and get that hot, get that rolling till your oil's pretty much smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And right when you hit your internal temp of 115, for me, take it off, throw it in that cast iron with oil or butter or whatever you got, roll it around in there on all sides. Make sure they all get a little burn to them, or a little char
I've
to
always
them.
heard like a minute on each side. Is that about right?
Yeah, whatever it takes
mean,
to get a little
roughly, I
color.
don't know.
Yeah, get a little color on it, caramelize the outside of it. Then pull it off, let it rest. Very important to let it rest. I don't know, maybe 20 minutes.
So they call it reverse sear because a lot of times people will sear it, then smoke
The
it.
standard
Right.
has
Sear it,
been
then
for a
cook
long
it.
time. Go
Right.
ahead and sear it
Dude,
first.
and,
So
I'm,
you're-
and I'm sure you can testify for this now. We grew up having fried backstrap, right? Like that
That's
was
the
only way we had it
staple.
when I was
Like,
growing
if you
up.
had
You
backstrap,
made
you
chicken fried
fried
steak
it.
out of it. Yeah.
Never again will I ever fry a
No.
backstrap after having it like that.
No,
Like it
no.
is fantastic. Like fry that round steak, that crap you don't want, and
Yep.
save that backstrap for delicious dinners with your buddies.
Absolutely. Yep. So
Man, I'm
Well,
looking
I'll cut it
forward
up,
to the
eat it
producer
up.
corners every week.
I'm starving.
I'm hungry too.
we're gonna have some more good recipes. We're gonna save the mac and cheese though. I'm just gonna keep stringing weight along on
Whatever.
mac and
Yeah.
cheese.
What'd y'all think?
Whatever.
First episode go good? I thought so.
Absolutely.
We're good.
Yeah, look, everybody, we're still learning as we go. We got a lot of good episodes ahead of y'all, and hope y'all stay tuned. Next week, we're going to go on a turkey hunt and come back and teach y'all a little bit about gobbling turkeys.
Gobble gobble.
Thank you.
Y'all.